Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk.
Hello there.
Hello!
How's it going?
Good. Although I had someone tell me they weren't sure which one of us was saying hello.
Really?
Yeah.
It's MB, you guys.
Occasionally it's you, but it's almost always me. I'm that way.
I'm that way. I just usually say hello. Perhaps an hola here and there.
Yes.
That's it. Anything interesting you've done?
As soon as you say that, my mind goes,
Right? Well, I went to Pride this weekend. So
nice.
Unfortunately, it's one of those things where a girl child wants to be able to enjoy it, but it's a lot when you're autistic and there are thousands of people in a small space. And it's thousands of people who are bright and energetic and enthusiastic, and it's a lot.
I did go to a birthday party. Mutual friend's birthday, Ray Ray's birthday party.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. There were a lot of beautiful people there.
Yeah.
I felt very old. It was funny because my husband said to me, "Who starts a party at 8 p.m.?" And I said, "People turning 35.
So that would actually be the perfect time for me to go to a party if my life and others weren't falling apart. Perhaps I would have been there.
It was, so everyone wore a mask. And there were some women in absolutely beautiful outfits. There were some people in gorgeous masks. People did a lot of creative stuff. So
yeah, that's part of why
fun.
I didn't go. I didn't have the mental energy that day because there was something big that morning and that I cannot talk about. And the thought, I was like, I don't have a mask. I don't have time to find a mask. I don't have time to figure out what the fuck to wear. I don't give a shit about what to wear. So
it was funny because I realized a long time ago when one of our children was graduating, I think from middle school. We go to middle school graduation. You might remember it more vividly than I do because your kids are younger. But you see about half the girls are wearing flat shoes and about half of them are wearing ridiculous heels.
I had heels in elementary school.
But you can tell none of them can walk in them in elementary school. But by middle school, you can tell which girls wear them on a regular basis and which girls have just put them on for today. Mm-hmm. So what I said at the party, what I noticed was, like I said, there were all kinds of outfits. There were gorgeous outfits. But I said, you can tell who wears a body conscious outfit on a regular basis and who has put this on today and does this about once a year, if that. Just the way they carry themselves, just the way they hold themselves. There was a woman who had on this thing. It was lacy. It was all of a piece and it kind of looked like a mini dress with a big train, but it was shorts instead of a mini skirt. And it was gorgeous. And I flagged her down. I said, I just have to tell you that the outfit is 1,000%. It is. You look so good in it, and it's such a nice outfit. She said, "Thank you so much. Bought this a year ago. It's been sitting in my closet, waiting for a reason."
That was my outfit at Mountain of Authors. I was like, I don't care if this is inappropriate for wearing to a book sales and signing thing. I'm wearing it anyway. And Craig Johnson was the keynote, and he said, "See, I can't even do it the way he did it because he's a rancher.
Yes.
He's an actual rancher, so he's got that. He can do that voice thing where it's like," and he said, "Those shoes are spanking."
And you knew that he meant it.
He did. So, yeah, that was fun. So I was able to get a signed book for my godmother who's like,
very nice.
This is the first time ever. And all the writing events I've done, she was like, "Oh my God, I love Craig Johnson and I need you to get me a signed copy." So I got that, and I was able, he said he has what is it called? Longmire Days or something?
Oh. I know he wrote Longmire.
Oh, yeah, there's a big festival up in a little town near his even smaller town that he lives in, and they have it every year. And he said the first one, he's driving with the actor that plays Longmire in the show, and there's kind of like this hill you go up, and then the town's in a little bowl, and the actor's saying, well, how many people do you think will be there? And he was like, I don't know, like 1,000 maybe. And they come over the hill and the entire town is just swamped with people, right? And it was something like 5,000, and the town itself had maybe 1,000 people living in it. So they ran out of food at all the restaurants and grocery stores.
Oh my God.
The little cell towers were just dead in the water because there were too many people trying to get sick. He said he just walked around and he was just looking at this. And, but anyway, the proceeds from the last one he donated to MMIW.
Oh, nice.
So, and his newest book involves that. Mm-hmm. So, that was nice. You know,
it was very nice.
I'm always going to be pleased if somebody does something for the MIW cause. So, he's always an entertaining speaker. I've heard his stuff before. So, but he's very engaging. I need to start dragging the kids to the library again. My son has started kind of reading again for fun, which is nice.
It is nice.
Yeah. So now I take them once a month to Barnes & Noble and let them each pick a book. Because they like it. But
I would like it. You could take me anytime.
Right? There's a lot of people that like it. I always go, I'm like, I get a reward too. And I pick myself a book. Or if there's those deals at the front where they're like $7, then I might get
forget
a few of those.
Yeah. I have a bookshelf full of those books. I'm trying to read through them. I have not, since we last recorded, I have not bought any new books. And I read 5 off my TBR pile. It was a series.
Because I love a recommendation, like when they have the staff picks at a bookstore. It's what I love about the little ones, where Barnes & Noble had one little shelf like that for staff picks. And I didn't think they were great. Like the other one at the little bookstores, it was different. I don't know, different community, different.
Yes.
And I found some amazing books. And the one I got from the Barnes & Noble staff pick this time, I have been struggling through. Well, let me see. I was sick the first week of June, right? So we went the second week of June. I've been reading this book for 2 fucking weeks. And I posted about it and everybody, oh my God, that's one of my favorites. And I'm like, really?
Well, since you posted about it, what book is it?
Oh, it's The Air Affair or something like that. And like Jane
Jasper
Eyre.
Ford?
Yes. I feel bad. It's not that the writing's bad. There's something that's not engaging me.
No, I get where you're coming from because I read the first book in that series. And I was like, oh, how cute. And I read the second book of that series and went, I'm done now. And
it's very clever, but like I'm in a section where, so there's these little critters called bookworms and they eat the pages and they put out the things. So then they're passing gas. And when they're passing gas, it's sending out ampersands and apostrophes. So all of a sudden they're scattered throughout the writing. And then they start belching out hyphens or something, and that's added to that. And so they're keeping it in all of the dialogue throughout. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm having to figure out.
No.
Because, so they had the ampersand, right? And an L. And I'm reading that. I'm like, what the, land. L plus and. And I'm like, I can't. This is, first of all, I'm already struggling reading this book. I'm not like, you can tell when I'm reading a book I like. I can get upstairs earlier and get in bed because I actually want to read it. But when I'm reading a book where I'm dreading getting into bed and I have to read one chapter at a time, then it's like, and I'm not trying to knock the author. Again, other people have declared this their favorite, their very favoriteest series. But I
know a lot of people who love it. But I can
see the cleverness. I can see it, but it's too much. You know, like it's when the focus is on the clever and then there's too many plots going on that are just, I'm reading them and I'm like, the fuck, what? And also, who cares?
Well, it's like Terry Pratchett does, some of his books have a shit ton of footnotes and there are people that drives insane. I find every word he wrote fucking delightful and I love those footnotes. At the same time, I accept not everyone feels that way.
Right.
Do you enjoy going to the grocery store? If so, this message is not for you. But if you're like me and procrastinate going to the store, Instacart is a fantastic option to ensure you no longer have to. Save yourself a trip and go through Instacart, where you can get a delivery through a personal shopper in as little as 1 hour. My experiences have been great so far, with my personal shopper texting me before substituting another product, letting me know when they were on their way to my house, and letting me know it had been delivered, all via text. If you click on our affiliate link in the show notes or on our website, you get free delivery on your first order over $35, and you help out our show at the same time. It's the perfect time to give it a try.
What you gonna talk about today?
Whoa.
That was a little abrupt.
By the way, I'm watching this. It's called, oh shit, I don't know what it's called. It's a reality television show where a bunch of parents put their 20-somethings that still live with them.
It's called, I saw the ad for it, and I was like, it's called Snowflake, isn't it?
Yes. It's like Snowflake.
How is it?
Camp Snowflake or something.
How is it?
I mean, it's entertaining because these really are the most spoiled. They've never had to do anything for themselves. Mm-hmm. And so their parents have put them up. Although, I thought it was funny because there's one and it's just so cliche. But at the same time, if you've known like an Indian family from India, then... So the mother has put him up because she was like, he was supposed to be like a doctor or an engineer. So he's actually held jobs, but he did not choose, you know what I mean? Uh-huh. So he's not the laziest person there, we'll just say. He still is spoiled like the others, but I was like, I feel like he's on a different level than some of them. But yeah, so we've been watching that. It just made me think of it because the two guys, so it's being filmed in England, but it's people from the U.S. and I think it's just England. I don't think somewhere else.
They're survival experts, aren't they? The two guys.
Yeah. And so they both have Southern accents, right? And I'm like, you guys I feel like you purposely chose this to give them a certain, like, here are the Brits, like, yep, that's Americans right there with the Southern accents. Guess what? That's only a small percentage. And, yes, it just made me laugh. But yeah. Jeff and I have been watching that when we're done with like a real movie or whatever. But there's also a Jeff Bridges show that's on right now. Yes.
I haven't seen that yet either.
He watched the first episode and I was like, what? How dare you? You thought I wouldn't want to watch a Jeff Bridges show together? Oh, so now he's waiting.
Patrick told me that he's like, doesn't that sound good? I said, yes, it does. I just finished season 2 of The Boys. So I can now start season 3.
We're a couple episodes behind. See, when it's releasing every week, then eventually we're just like, and then we binge a couple. Like
there's probably plenty out because I'm not going to sit down and watch.
Oh yeah, it's probably like at least half the season at this point. Yep. So, and Jensen Ackles is in it. He's objectionable, though, just so you know. But
is there a character in that isn't? I mean, really?
Not really. There's 2 that are kind of not objectionable.
Yes, but one of them is moist.
Yeah.
Somebody what's her name's mother just referred to him as the boy with the moist handshake.
Oh, the boy with the moist, yeah. Sweaty little boy. All right, so anyway, I'm doing the Capital City Killings, also known as the Mad City Murders, also known as the Campus Killings. Between 1968 and 1984, 8 women were murdered in Madison, Wisconsin. And then I didn't look it up, but it was very clear that this was a low crime area, you know. They occurred in wooded areas, and all but one of the women were associated with the University of Wisconsin, whether as students, employees, or campus residents. The women wore their dark hair long and parted down the middle, similar to Bundy's victimology.
Okay.
Which was really freaking people out over here in Wisconsin. The first victim was Christine Rothschild, a freshman at UW, and it was May 25th, 1968. She was from North Chicago and dreamed of being a journalist. In the summer, she worked as a catalog model for department stores. A week before her murder, she reported to campus police that someone was stalking her. She told them who it was. They told her to get a whistle. She even told them someone had broken into her apartment. Nothing had been stolen, but things had been moved, and they said, get a whistle, so if they attack you, you can blow the whistle.
Big fucking lot of help that is. What are you supposed to do? Shove it down their throat and hope they choke on it?
Yeah.
That's a big...
So less than a week later, the 18-year-old was found in some bushes outside Sterling Hall, having been stabbed 14 times in the neck and chest, most likely with a scalpel. Then garroted with a bit of her coat lining that had been torn off. Several ribs were broken, as were both jawbones on both sides, like her jaw had been shattered. The murderer had pushed her pair of gloves down her throat. I don't know if that's why her jaw was shattered. They said she'd been obviously beaten about the face. And they felt the first one probably would have knocked her out, so she did not feel what followed. Let's hope. And her body had been carefully posed with her head lying on a stone window ledge under some bushes. She had either been on her way to church or out for a morning jog. Stories varied. There were suspects, but none of them strong, and no one was arrested for her murder, even after a $5,000 reward was put up by the police. And again, she had named her stalker. As would be found with the other women, there were few clues left behind. She had the most. Though they did find a blood-soaked handkerchief under her head that had been placed there when her head was placed where it was, and a broken umbrella that had been stabbed into the ground that they didn't know if that was associated or not. It was revealed in 2010 that the sheriff's office had misplaced these items of evidence after the FBI returned them. So, no DNA, right? They couldn't go back. That was way back. The FBI had it not long after the crime, and so by the time they were written out. But here's the thing. The sheriff's office weren't the ones investigating the crime. It was the local city police or whatever.
Okay.
And again, for the record, it was campus police that told us. I don't even know if that's police. We'll put that in quotes, or security that told her to get a whistle.
Perhaps we should say security.
Yes. But anyway, because that department was so small at the time, the sheriff's department would keep their evidence for them.
Okay.
And they did not have a great way to keep evidence. So amongst all the shuffle, and eventually when that department grew and they could take their evidence back, that's when they found out.
Okay.
This evidence is gone. And then any evidence from the other girls was also missing. She was not sexually assaulted, and I'll say that none of them were known to have been sexually assaulted, but it seems from conditions that they probably were. Christine was not. She was just brutally beaten. There was a large passage of time between Christine's death and the next suspicious death. It wouldn't be until July 21st, 1976, remember Christine was 1968, that another murdered woman was found in a gully 14 miles from Madison along Old South Road. 2 land assessors found her. Deborah Bennett was 20 years old and was living in a hotel after having been evicted from her apartment. She had actually just moved from a small town to the big town. She was reported missing on the 11th. Her remains were charred and the area around her was burned, and an autopsy showed she'd been dead for about 10 days, but the coroner was unable to determine a cause of death because she'd been burned. And of course, no evidence because they had burned the area around her too. Interestingly, her key was mailed to the hotel in an envelope with no markings other than the address and postmark 3 weeks after her body was found. A friend told newspapers that Debbie's dad had been in the end stages of cancer, and they'd had many discussions about death. Debbie was absolutely terrified of death. I wanted to go back to Christine, that first one. The same 2 cops she reported her stalker to, I didn't write this down, but it's in my head, the campus security, whatever, were the ones who responded to the body. And they went in and picked up the body and moved it, and the ambulance people came and helped with that. So evidence was trampled. Nobody knows if there were footprint. Like, her scene was just fucked from the beginning because of the campus officials, we'll say, and the ambulance drivers. And then they actually picked her up. Instead of putting her on a gurney, one person got her legs, one person got her hands. And they just kind of tossed her body into the ambulance, not on a gurney. And then it was just like right up the street to get her to the hospital so she could be declared dead. It was such a mess when I was reading about it, but it was 68. So I don't know if that was more common. But yeah, because she had a friend who I'm going to talk about later who really pushed and tried forever she knew who the stalker was, and she felt that person had killed him. So we'll talk about that later. But just the evidence that was destroyed made it impossible to ever pursue anything.
That's crazy.
So, all right, moving back on. This time the break between murders would only be 2 years, in June 1978. Once again found in a wooded area 14 miles from Madison and Wanakee in a shallow grave. The victim was an 18-year-old Julie Ann Hall. She'd been dead about 3 days when found, and her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. She was nude. Julie had started working for the university library as of May 1978 and was last seen at the Main King Tap near Capitol Square. I had the least information about her. They didn't even have the date she was found. They didn't have that she'd been reported missing. So that was so weird to me. Like the other ones, it was she went missing this day, or she was reported missing this day. And I mean, Christine was found within a day. So that one's different. But yeah, June 1978 is the most information I could find for her.
That's unusual. Well, except because we do this and we look at older records, it's always surprising to me. Some stuff you can find so much information on somebody born in 1802,
right?
And what color their grandmother's eyes were. And then here's a missing woman and you can't even find where it was reported.
Yeah. I'm like, really? None of the... Okay.
Yeah.
Less than a year later, 20-year-old Julie Spearschneider disappeared. She worked at Red Caboose Daycare Center and Tony's Chop Suey and was known to be a reliable worker. The last she was seen was March 27th, 1979. Julie left the 602 Club and started hitchhiking to a friend's house. Her friends and family consulted psychics, but it led nowhere. December 15th, 1979, 24-year-old Susan LeMahieu disappeared. She was both mentally and physically disabled, and police thought she had run away or was simply confused due to her disabilities. At the time, she was living in Allen Hall, a treatment facility on the campus. So at the beginning when I said, like, campus residence, she was not a student.
Oh.
But they had a, basically, you know, like sometimes there's the students will run whatever. So she was living in a treatment center there, which was interesting. And that was her association with the college. January 2nd, 1980, 17-year-old Shirley Stewart went missing after she left her place of business, the Dean Clinic, where she was a maid. Her father had been mayor starting in 1971, so of course they probably looked at that for her going missing. I don't think he was anymore when she went missing, though. Susan was found in April on the 17th, 1980, by some joggers, the victim of multiple stab wounds to the chest. Her nude body was lying in some weeds in a marshy area outside the campus arboretum, close to a parking lot, but had been missed for months. Her parents had already lost 2 of her younger brothers when she was 10. The boys were 4 and 6, and they had climbed into an old fridge in the basement.
Oh.
Like, how much did that happen? I just remember that becoming a huge deal and, like, changing how refrigerators worked for the seals and putting out the warning. When I was a kid, they were constantly putting out those warnings. Make sure that you don't have that a kid can't get into the fridge or the trunk. Those were the 2 big ones.
Fridge or freezer.
Right. But she did also leave behind 3 brothers, 3 sisters and a brother.
Okay.
So it was a big family. But I was just like, they'd already lost 2 and very young. And how awful, you know? And then their daughter gets assaulted and left lying somewhere. And it took them a while to find her body. In April 1981, a 16-year-old boy found Julie Spearschneider's body while out on a hike along the Yahara River. By that point, there were only skeletal remains, but no remnants of clothes were found. A rough attempt at covering the body with brush had occurred. Cause of death wasn't determined due to the amount of time the body had been outdoors. After the discovery of her body, police asked the public for information. A man contacted them saying he had given her and a male a ride to the corner of Johnson and Brearley, which was about a block from her friend's house. So it seemed it really was her. He described the man the best he could, but it didn't lead to anyone. But she never did make it to that friend's house. And she was dropped off a block away with a man. In July 1981, Shirley Stewart's nude body was found by 4 archaeology students, which I feel was appropriate. That's good practice, don't you think? Her body was in the woods north of Madison.
I'm thinking they mostly deal with long dead bodies.
Listen, if you're going to be digging around and, you know, stealing things. I wanted to be an archaeologist, then I got older and went, shit, they're just stealing things from the cultures. God damn it. Anyway, I have to really shut that down when I watch Indiana Jones because I love Indiana Jones. And I'm like, we're shutting that down. We're not going to think about it. Anyway. So, her body was in the woods north of Madison, and just as with Julie, her cause of death could not be determined. The body was covered with brush again. When looking through articles, the ones about her body being found were the first to mention a connection between her. This is the first that police went, all right, we have a spate. You know, we have a collection of murders that have to be related. Or the first they publicly said anything about it. And at that point, it's probably because the press was like, okay, listen, there aren't that many murders here. And I imagine the ones where they couldn't find the cause of death then were stabbings, possibly, because they wouldn't have been the blunt force, because that would be broken bones, unless the bones were so broken they couldn't tell, which could be possible, too.
Right.
Like if the skull was kind of destroyed.
Despite what you see on Bones on TV,
right,
it's not always possible to tell the cause of death.
One thing that frustrated me is they said that Christine, though I had to really dig to find that, the first one was killed with a scalpel. The other ones that were stabbed, never is a scalpel mentioned, so I'm thinking knife for them more, because I feel like scalpel would stand out, and that's very different. And that's going to matter a little later on. Where did I stop? She also stood out as being the youngest victim, and the only one not somehow associated with the college. 19-year-old Donna, I don't know how to say her name, Mraz, M-R-A-Z, was found alive, but unconscious on July 2nd, 1982, just after midnight. A witness had heard her scream and had looked out their upper floor window of, I assume, their dorm. It was called an apartment in the article, but they're on campus. So anyway, And he looked out and he saw her run out from behind the building and collapse, but didn't see anyone else. So the other person had fled into the woods behind the building or something. Hypnosis was attempted to get more information, but did not help. Donna was a student at the university working at a restaurant called the Bittersweet to pay her tuition. She was attacked behind Camp Randall Stadium while walking home from her job and stabbed repeatedly in the face, left arm, and left side of the chest, with one stab wound being significant and actually penetrating her heart on that left side. Sadly, she never regained consciousness to tell police who had attacked her. All of her money from that night was still on her, including her paycheck, so she had not been robbed. 2 years after her death, an additional autopsy was done where impressions of her teeth were taken. There was a suspect in prison with scars resembling bite marks, but he died in jail before anything could be done. So, and then this one, she's kind of sometimes included with them and sometimes not. October 11th, 1984, 20-year-old UW student Janet M. Rash, R-A-A-S-C-H, went missing, but was reported missing by friends on the 15th. So she actually disappeared on the 11th, though. She lived and worked on campus. They had dropped her off on Highway 54. Her body would be found November 17th, 1984, about 2 miles west of where her friends had dropped her off, by a deer hunter. The coroner couldn't determine time of death or cause, but she had been viciously beaten. In 2002, Janet's body was exhumed to seek DNA evidence, but none was found at that time. I mean, they clean them. They don't,
yeah.
Many officials and locals feel these cases are related due to the similar circumstances. No further similar crimes have been committed since Janet's murder in 1984. Serial killer Henry Lee Lucas briefly confessed to some of these murders, but later recanted. And if anybody remembers, there was a whole documentary made about him on Netflix or something, and he was called The Confession Killer, because they know he committed a couple, but he's admitted to like hundreds of crimes.
Right.
So there are mixed feelings about whether he might have been involved. Either way, he could not have been responsible for all of them, as he was in prison during some of the murders. The ones thought to have been most likely to have been by him are the murders of Julianne Hall and Julie Spearschneider. Of course, everybody has different theories. So other theories point to the killer being a student or a teacher at the university, or to the killer being some sort of health aide. Also of note is that some officials theorized that Christine Rothschild and Donna Mratz were separate cases, and that only the 5 in the middle were victims of a serial killer. And then that leaves Janet on the outside again, not related. So first of all, Christine Rothschild, they had that suspect, which was her stalker, which is strong, but they had more suspects for both of these women than the others. And Donna was the one with the bite who had possibly bitten him. So their suspects looked good for it, but they were never able to pin the murder on them. They were never able to have the evidence that those two might have been different. True crime author Mike Arntfield, an ex-cop, wrote a book about the killings in which he theorized that Christine's killer was a serial killer who posed as a medical researcher so he could move from campus to campus and victimize female students without his crimes being connected. And it was the same person as her stalker.
Oh.
His book is Mad City, and it was written with one of her friends, that friend I'm going to mention in a moment. The man he's accused of these killings is Niels Bjorn Jorgensen, and nothing has come of the accusations. He died several years ago, so he was never punished. A similar crime had been committed at that man's alma mater right before, while he was there.
Interesting.
And he was moving. He would never finish his research. He would just move to another campus. So there's a whole theory in that book if people want to read that. Again, that's Mad City by Mike Arntfield. And a similar crime had happened at his alma mater, like I said. But on the day that Christine was killed, he pulled a gun out at work. He wielded a weapon, but he didn't actually shoot anybody. And then he fled the state and he left all his belongings behind. So that friend of Christine's, her name is Linda Tomaszewski, I'm going to assume. And she spent the rest of that man's life making sure she tracked where he went and alerting people to his location and putting out warnings about him. So it's felt that while he had killed before Christine, that he was never able to kill anyone else.
Good for her.
Listen, mad props to her, because she was like, it's not happening again. And she helped him with that book that he was writing. It does make sense that at least Christine's murder was a separate case to me. That one was very different. It was, 9 years?
8 years.
8 years. And before those other ones were closer together and they got more rapidly together, which, escalation, right? But Christine seemed very personal.
Yes.
And the posing of her being killed there on campus and just left there. All of that to me really does point to her being a separate case.
And the fury.
Yeah.
The anger.
Right. To have broken her jaw in multiple places and shoved her gloves down her throat. Again, that's overkill. It's a mess. So I do agree that she's different. And as for the rest of them, the question remains as to whether there was a serial killer or some violent students moved through a low-crime city rapidly, you know. And that is, we see that with the military bases here, especially the Army base. We see there's a lot of crime from that. But I can see that in any college town, right? A little bump up, maybe. Mm-hmm. But the ones in the middle really do seem to me, at least, to be related. Because there's a set of 5 of them there in the middle who they're found in the woods, nude or mostly nude, with brush over their body. One was in a very shallow grave. Mm-hmm. And so she was the only one not covered by brush, but the rest met up with it. They were all decomposed by the time they got found, so it couldn't be figured out exactly what had happened to them. But only one was burned, so there are differences that somebody can argue none of them are related. It just makes sense that, you know what, something changed. Maybe there was something different about the one that got burned.
Maybe
there was a reason they had to burn.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe there was some kind of evidence.
Yes, because they were good about not leaving clues behind. But maybe there was something that they had to destroy in that. So anyway, there's, again, tons of theories, but I definitely think Christine's different, but I also think some of the others are related. Sources: watching true crime stories on Tapatalk. That was a forum, and the poster was DG 1952. The forum and the friggin' Reddit had the best information out of almost all of them.
Yep.
Capital City Murders on Weebly, Unresolved Mysteries on Reddit, Mysterious Heartland, Wisconsin's Capital City Killings by Verity Partington, that's such a great writer name, on Medium, Unsolved Violent Murders Haunt Campus by Elizabeth Wachowski in Madison Daily, The Mirror article by Claire Carter. It had an insanely long title, and I'm not going to list it, because if you're going to title something a paragraph, The Gruesome 1960s Campus Murder That America Forgot by Michael Arntfield. He's also that author on the A&E True Crime blog. So those are my sources.
Well, yeah, if you write a book, if you're smart, you then get articles out of the same information.
And because you're going to lead them to your book.
Yes. And why not? You've done all this work and it's taken all this time and blood and sweat, and why not?
Right. I mean, that's the thing.
You've become the expert, so why not use that before you forget it? Because
that's just good business.
Yes. It is good. Is it?
That author, Arntfield, he had put out he had been interviewed in something, and he was like, I really think that because Christine got clumped in with the others, it actually hurt the investigations on both sets.
Yes. I can see that.
Yeah.
So... Well, I have a different kind of a story. And you already know what I'm doing for this one. Because I, in an unusual show of foresight, messaged Shannon and said, have we done this case yet? And she said, we have not. It's all yours.
It's yours.
So I had 2 inspirations for doing this story. And one is actually Shannon. Oh, no. Because you've done all these taking pop culture references, like drinking the Kool-Aid, and then talking about what the real story is behind it. Mm-hmm. And I felt like this one deserved to have the real story told. But the other one, the thing that brought it back into the forefront for me, is a man named James Fell, who writes sweary history. Mm. He actually calls himself a sweary historian, and I follow him on Facebook because he's always writing, on this day in history, shit went down. That is also the name of his most recent book.
Nice.
So, shout out to James Fell, who I don't know, who does not know me, but I love his Facebook post. And he is sweary, and he will just, when he posts something historical, and he is sweary in his description of it, which, I love, but people will come back at him with some ridiculous taunt, and he's like, fuck off. I mean, he's much more eloquent than that.
But we have a local weatherman who has a funny weather site, and local Denver, but
yes.
But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, people will talk shit to him, and he's like, well, why don't you fuck off the page then? He's like, why are you reading me if you don't think my weather's accurate?
Yeah. And his is the
most accurate. It is really accurate. Because he'll give us all the options. He's not pretending like the ones on TV that they know exactly what's going to happen, right? He's like, all right, let me tell you why I think this is going to happen, but there's a chance this could happen.
Yes, and he'll say, this is happening. This is coming. You can see it on the radar. Now it could go this way or it could go this way. It all depends on the phase of the moon. No, he doesn't say that, but he's much more, and he will get right down into the details. Sometimes I skim because I'm not that interested in the meteorological background of the forecast. Just tell me what it's going to do. So, surely some of our listeners will remember 1993.
Don't call me Shirley.
So here's some things that happened in 1993. Beanie Babies hit the market. Federal agents raided the Branch Davidian compound. That was a religious cult in Waco, Texas, resulting in about a month and a half standoff.
Koresh.
Yes. The first bagless vacuum cleaner was invented.
Yes. Was it a Dyson?
And it didn't say.
I don't remember if they were first.
But Joe and I also got married that year.
Wow. I got married in 96.
Wow. I was way older, just saying.
I was fresh out of high school.
I wasn't fresh at anything.
Fresh out of the East Coast.
Yes. So, on June 23rd, this is 1993, in Manassas, Virginia, John Bobbitt came home, raped his wife, and went to bed. Sleeping the sleep of an entitled asshole, we might assume. I don't think much of this man. I'm not even going to pretend otherwise. So, and this is something that has remained consistent in her story. She did not plan this. She got up and went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. And there was a carving knife there. And she picked up this 8-inch carving knife, went back to the bedroom, and cut off his penis. She fled the apartment, penis in hand, and drove off. Since the severed penis was an impediment to safe driving, she threw it out the window as she passed a field.
Did you see the comic relief for Robin Williams was the penis?
Probably, but I don't remember.
It has stuck with me all this time, and I can't do it justice because we're not on video. But
oh, yeah.
He went up there, and he's got his arms straight down and his shoulders up, and he's like slouched down, and he's got one eye closed, and his mouth quirked all weird, and he's bobbing because he was sitting on the dashboard. He did a whole thing on that, and yeah, it's memorable.
I bet it is. But she said, people have asked her, that's one of the questions she gets asked all the time is, why did you throw it out the window? And she said, because all of a sudden I realized I was driving with this bloody penis in my hand and I couldn't safely drive. So I just pitched it out the window. So she eventually went to her boss's house. She had her boss sort of mentored her and they had a close relationship. Eventually she went to her boss's house. The boss called 911 and directed officers to the field where the phallus had been flung.
Nice.
Sometimes you get to write a sentence like that. So after an exhaustive search, and I wasn't there, I don't know how exhaustive it was, but they found the penis.
You can walk right over a body sometimes. I can't imagine finding a penis was easy.
Yeah. So, I mean, frankly, personally, I would rather pick up warm dog turds than this man's penis, but...
I always thought that her biggest mistake was not putting it in the blender before she took off.
Or down the garbage disposal.
Yeah.
Or the microwave.
Oh.
Microwave.
That's a science experiment.
That is. It was washed off. I don't know... I found 2 different accounts, and I'm going to, that's going to come up in a minute. There were 2 different accounts given of how this thing was retrieved, and one makes it sound like there were people out there in surgical gloves parting every blade of grass, and another one, which is they're out there with flashlights because most of the police officers were male going, oh, fuck, we got to find this guy's dick. So maybe they can reattach it. And I'm thinking they hosed it off. They put it they packed it on ice in a 7-Eleven hot dog box because the field was across the street from a 7-Eleven. So they run over there, get a hot dog box, pack it.
You get a big gulp container and put some ice in it. But, I could be standing up in there.
They didn't want to touch it any more than necessary.
I'm shocked that they put it. This Manassas is not a big city, I don't think, and certainly wasn't then. But so they had time, I guess.
So it was rushed to the hospital to be reunited with John. It took a 9.5-hour surgery, but the penis was reattached and mostly functional.
Well, he did porn with it. Okay, sorry.
Oh, no, he didn't do porn. Hold on. He did do porn. But, so the media could not... Here's the thing. At the time, the media could not get enough of this. Mm-hmm. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was joking about it. He had his manhood cut off while he slept. Mm-hmm. So it was talked about on every news show, on every talk show, every comedy routine, and it's still a part of pop culture. There were t-shirts, there were ad campaigns. It's mentioned in a Weird Al Yankovic song. In February of this year, 2022, it was mentioned on The Family Guy. Mm. Because Thing 2 went, oh yeah, when I was telling her what I was talking about this week, she goes, they just mentioned that on The Family Guy. I said, yes, in February. And she goes, and everybody went, huh? But I knew what they were talking about. Because she likes weird stuff. So, at this point in time, John Bobbitt was all people could talk about. So, Stuart Smiley was a character that Al Franken did on Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. Stuart Smiley suggested Lorena should apologize to her husband's penis. Now, there are words...
Well, there's a lot of people who don't believe spousal rape is a thing.
Yes, and I'm about to get into that. Mm. What a lot of people don't remember is that he was charged with marital rape, which had only recently been made a crime in all 50 states and was notoriously hard to prove.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah. The media questioned if such a thing could even exist. So, that included... Now, you might think, well, sure, Playboy is putting that out. No. Ladies' Home Journal. So, I'm happy to say they're out of business.
Yeah.
And Gay Fuckwit Talese, who's the renowned literary journalist who wrote about it for The New Yorker.
Oh, I don't even know that person, so they're not that renowned.
He thinks he is. So if I'm going to back up for a minute. So we've come to the point where the penis is separate, but we're going to back up and talk about how they got here. So Lorena Gallo was born in Ecuador in 1969 and grew up in Venezuela. At the age of 18, she came to the U.S. on a student visa and attended Northern Virginia Community College. She was a little tiny woman. She was short, she was slender, she weighed barely 95 pounds. She got work as a manicurist, and then she went to a dance and met Marine Lance Corporal John Wayne Bobbitt. He was tall, he was handsome, he had blue eyes. He symbolized the American dream to her. Because that was her thing. She was very big on the American dream. And in June of 1989, at the ages of 20 and 22, they were married. If there was any marital bliss, I can't find any record of it. He was physically, sexually, and verbally abusive. He constantly threatened to have her deported.
Nice.
After this, he tried to claim that she attacked him. I mean, he's this big strapping guy.
Rapists are not like forthcoming and known for their bravery.
In his defense, in court, he claimed that Lorena was greedy and wanted too much too fast. The American dream. So it wasn't enough that she was here. She wanted to have a car and a nice house.
They probably made each other miserable, but he still raped her.
That's true. Now, here's the thing. In 1991, when he was discharged from the Marines, he couldn't find work. So she was the sole breadwinner. Surprisingly, tensions escalated in the marriage. So she called police on him more than once when he was abusing her. At one point, she did embezzle money from her boss, trying to hold off foreclosure on their home. This is the same boss she later went to. So that relationship maintained. They split up. They got back together. On the night in question, John says he came home after a night out and had consensual sex with his wife. He says, that I can't even say this with a straight face. They had already decided to separate, and this was his tender goodbye.
Ew.
Yeah.
Gross.
And Lorena said it was rape. So what happened next was the judicial equivalent of the court shrugging its shoulders. In November of 1993, John Bobbitt was found not guilty of marital sexual assault. In January of 1994, which was just 2 months later, Lorena was found not guilty of malicious wounding due to temporary insanity.
Okay.
What happened next? Lorena spent 45 days in a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation. The following summer, she became an American citizen. She supported her parents and her 2 siblings through work as an office assistant and a nail tech. She changed her name back to Lorena Gallo. They did divorce. Mm-hmm. She turned down a $1 million offer from Playboy to pose nude. She went back to college. She met David Bellinger, who has been her partner for over 20 years now, but has understandably been reluctant to marry.
Yeah.
And apparently they were friends. They met in class and studied together, and they were just friends for a very long time before they began a romantic relationship. In 2005, she had a daughter. In 2007, she started a foundation to support victims of domestic abuse. She lives in a tidy house with a neat lawn, not in, but near Manassas, Virginia, because that was her town. That was her place. And her parents and her siblings live nearby. So she has, in essence, achieved her American dream. Mm-hmm. So what about John Bobbitt? So she worked her ass off. She's also blonde now. But
no comment.
But it's not a platinum Marilyn Monroe. Anyway, I don't blame her at all for changing her looks. And she didn't do that right away. But anyway, so did John Bobbitt work to improve his life? Spoiler alert, no. He went to Vegas. He met Ron Jeremy. He met Ron Jeremy and starred in a couple of porn films. He almost missed the premiere of the first one, which is called John Bobbitt Uncut, because he was sentenced to 60 days in jail for domestic battery of his girlfriend. So, he made the second, Frankenpenis, after accepting Howard Stern's offer.
Oh, wait, he did a movie called that?
Yes.
That's hysterical. I was just calling him Frankenpenis.
Oh, no. I thought you knew that was the name of the movie.
I mean, I probably must have at one point, right?
Okay, so he was a regular on Howard Stern's show. So Howard Stern offered to pay for male enhancement surgery. And the surgery and the film were about as successful as you would expect. Ron Jeremy had a very interesting quote, which made me laugh. I didn't include it, but it's, like you said, stuck in my head. Mm-hmm. He said, when you're going to have a surgery of this type, you can go for length or you can go for girth, but you cannot get both.
Did he try?
He tried to get both. And it's been described as a dented Red Bull can.
How sad was his little penis if he needed to make it bigger and wider? I'm sorry. I don't like insulting peni because I feel like that's used and abused and not something somebody has control over. But since he was trying to control it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I've heard some very bad reviews of the movie. Anyway, remember I said he was a regular on Howard Stern's show? So in recent years, there's been a lot. I feel like there has been a movement that Howard Stern is mellowing.
Oh, well, probably. He's getting older.
Okay. I would just like to point out that at one point on his radio show, he said, Howard Stern said, I don't even buy that he was raping her. She's not that great looking.
Yeah, well, that doesn't surprise me. It's Howard Stern.
No. And I'm like, that takes him, he isn't even human anymore.
No.
But John Bobbitt's story does not end with Frankenpenis. He was broke. Because I don't know what the hell well, yes, I do know what he did with his money. He was pissing it away. Anyway, he got a job at a Nevada brothel. So, get this. At this job, he proves that he is neither smart nor classy enough for the job.
Oh.
He's like a greeter. It's like a Walmart greeter, but at a brothel. Because it's one of the legal places in Nevada.
Yeah. So you gotta have like...
And he's not smart enough or classy enough. Because some reporter came up to ask him a question about his past. And he offered to drop his pants. He may have actually dropped his pants to show the reporter his penis.
I mean, listen.
And the guy who owned it was like, dude, pull up your pants. Keep it in your pants. That's not what we do here. People do not come here to see your wonky, fucked up, dented Red Bull can of a penis. So,
I bet he sends dick pics to people too. It's just, he's so proud of his Franken penis.
Well, so he pled guilty in 1999 to attempted grand larceny for trying to steal $140,000 worth of clothes. He claimed he didn't know they weren't paid for. It's like, did you fucking pay for them? No?
Well, no, they're not paid for.
4 months later, he was found guilty of harassing an ex-girlfriend. There was a brief second marriage to a woman named Dottie Brewer, which was annulled after 3 weeks. I would like to point out, she's got 2 last names, and the other one also starts with B. I don't know why I didn't write it down. She is a published author, and she's now living, I can't remember what state, with her 5 cats. She wrote a book called This Week I Married John Bobbitt. I mean, they were together like less than 30 days, but she managed to get a book out of it. She also has a very spiritual side. So she writes about spiritual things, but she also wrote a book called How to Shit Money. It's like, marry John Bobbitt and write about it. There.
That's how you shit money.
That's not even a pamphlet. That's a fucking fortune cookie is what that is. He joined a circus. He was supposed to appear on... So they used to have all these celebrity whatever. So there was a show called Celebrity Boxing. He was supposed to appear on Celebrity Boxing facing, I want to say Joey Buttafuoco.
Yeah, probably.
But he was charged with battering his third wife. How this joker found 2 more people to marry him. He worked construction. He drove a truck. He ended up moving back in with his mother when she got cancer. In 2014, he was in a car accident and broke his neck. And now he's living in Vegas again, living off his disability checks. So in an August 2018 interview with Vanity Fair, he still proclaims his innocence on all charges against him.
Okay.
So for years, and I just want to, for years, John continued to try and stay in contact with Lorena. He sent her Valentine's cards.
Ew.
Every year. He insists that if she hadn't attacked him, they would still be married and would probably have a family.
Nope.
I'm like,
sure wouldn't.
I don't think so. And one of the articles that I think was from 2018 said that Lorena had recently turned down his Facebook friend request.
Oh my God. Stop, dude.
I'm like, what a fucking idiot.
It annoys me because I just saw something like yesterday going around because there was an article about a woman who just found video recordings. Her husband was assaulting her when she was asleep.
Oh.
And recording it.
Nice. That's classy.
It was the responses on that just sent me through the roof. Which was if she's his wife, he can't rape her. And that's her job. Was one of them. As his wife, it's her job to pleasure him, whether she's conscious or not. Like, do these people know they're declaring themselves rapists or what? And I was just like, and this is why we're dealing with all of our rights being rolled back, right? Like, this is exactly the type of mentality. And it's men and women alike.
Although
I've known women who said you can't be date raped either because you're on a date, therefore... The agreement is there. Yeah, no. Women.
No.
Yeah.
Honey, let's talk.
No, I gave up. I tried, and I no longer talk to those women.
Or, well, he bought me an expensive dinner, so.
Yeah, so.
I'm worth more than
There's
some
no
crab
price
legs.
tag on my vagina.
No. No.
Buy me dinner because you want to, not because you think that it's going to open those doors. No.
I am not uncrossing my legs for a lobster tail.
There's other things you can do that can make that happen.
Lots. But so my sources were, of course, of course, Wikipedia. I feel like we shouldn't even
You
have to
noticed I
say
didn't
that.
say Wikipedia?
You did not.
I didn't on the last one either.
So, an article, you know the Lorena Bobbitt story, but not all of it, from the New York Times by Amy Chozick. John Wayne Bobbitt arrested on abuse charge. That was from newspapers.com. Lorena Bobbitt's American Dream, a Vanity Fair article by Lily Enolik, I think. And then there was an article on grunge.com, What You Never Knew About John Bobbitt's ex-wife, Dottie Brewer, who knows how to shit money.
Absolutely.
It was so funny because when I thought about the case, when I saw that James Fell mentioned it, and I was like, I don't remember. I mean, I remember hearing about it. I remember it being in the news. I remember everybody making jokes about it. And I'm like, but they credit this case and, what was her name? Anita in the Clarence Thomas hearings.
Hill.
Anita Hill in the Clarence Thomas hearings. And there was one other, and I can't remember the third one. As those three together, bringing it into the public eye, bringing it into the public conversation so much that women's rights were, it brought about a tipping point. It brought it out into the light and got people talking
Clarence
about
Thomas still got on the Supreme Court.
Yes, he did.
I already bitched about that this week, but it just, the thing about that though sticks out for me because I was younger, of course, when all that was happening, but I remember like seeing the hearings on my parents must have been watching them or something. And then I don't think I found out till I was an adult that he still got confirmed. So then I was like, wait, he's on the Supreme Court after that? Mm-hmm. Oh, so the Supreme Court to me was supposed to be the best of the best.
Not anymore.
And it clearly isn't. Well, it hasn't been for a long time. So, yeah. All right. We try not to get political on here, so we'll just go ahead and move on, even though I have so many things I want to say.
Yeah, I'm swallowing a few of those myself.
But, yeah, that always just killed me. And then Kavanaugh, same sort of thing, right? So, yeah. But I was so shocked, because I was just like, of course he wouldn't have made it through after that. Yeah. But, yeah.
But to think, this happened in 93, and it was referenced on a popular TV, animated sitcom in 2022.
Certain things stick out, and cutting off a man's penis and throwing it out your car window is one of those things.
Apparently so. That is not the mark I want to leave on the world, but...
I guess you leave the mark you're meant to.
One of the women, I can't remember if it was the woman from the New York Times or the woman from Vanity Fair, interviewed both of them. Mm-hmm. I think it must have been the Vanity Fair woman. And he was like, they were wrapping up their interview, and he was like, well, why don't we go back to the bar at my hotel and continue this conversation, over a drink? And she was like, are you fucking out of your mind? Of course she didn't say that, but it was the tone I thought implied the astonishment and what the fuckedness of, oh yeah, John, that's a great idea. He said he married his second wife, the one who wrote all the books, because when he met her, and she has the same story, that when they met, she never asked him about what happened to him. I mean, eventually they talked about it, but apparently she was the only woman who didn't say, can I see it? I was like, gosh, that's...
If I wanted to see it, I could probably look it up online, and I've never done that, and that tells you everything you need to know about whether or not I want to see it.
Yeah.
But okay.
Blah.
That's fine. Yeah. If he were anybody else and had been cut off for any other reason, I would fully support him.
Yeah.
But no, he is a rapist and a scumbag. So.
Piece of shit.
All right. So.
I wonder if there had been any, and I know they wouldn't have because that's not a thing, but I just like to think that there was a female cop in that field and found it and like kicked it.
Right.
Kicked it or rubbed
stepped on it. I'm like, oh, sorry.
Saw stray dog.
So many things.
Throw it into a ravine.
I would have made him take his bleeding stump and go find it himself. But
People are like, well, he could have bled to death. And?
But every man who heard about it was crossing his legs and probably didn't know yet about the rape allegation. And,
That's true. And a lot of news at that time didn't report.
Oh, you bet.
They went for the sensational. They still do that.
Yeah.
You go for the sensational, not necessarily the truth.
Yeah. I think everybody remembers that she was mad at him. They don't necessarily remember that there was spousal rape involved.
And it wasn't like
a PSA, folks. If you don't want to have sex and you say no and it happens anyway, that's rape. Whether you're married or dating or anything else. Thank you. Have a lovely day.
That's our PSA for today.
That is.
That's our PSA for today.
That one just kills me. And again, the women arguing with me that date rape can't happen. So they obviously didn't believe in spousal rape either.
Nope.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
And since I would never wish rape on anyone, I can't even say, I hope you experience this. Because I don't. I don't hope you experience this.
I hope nobody.
But I hope that you grow some empathy and common sense and a brain. So there you are.
And finger guns.
You guys don't understand how much I've been having to hold in lately about everything ever.
Yep.
So much. I'm going to explode.
Yeah. Yes. I will tell you something when we're off the air.
On that note, you guys,
have a good week.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget that you can buy us a book on buymeacoffee.com/why is my chair so squeaky. M Mayhem.
Okay.
And bye.
We'll talk to you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back next week with more shenanigans.